A PlayStation 4 exclusive that I am so excited for finally has had its Western release date confirmed, and it's actually coming out relatively soon. I'm super stoked for that. However, I also want to talk about in this video a very worrisome trend that this game is bringing forward, and it's actually got a lot of gamers worried. If you've been following the story on Judgment coming to the West, you know that as excited as gamers are for the game coming over here, there's also a little bit of a worrisome trend being introduced with Judgment, incentivizing you to buy a digital copy of the game over a physical copy of the game. Now, it's not a completely unique thing to suggest this, and we'll go over it, and I'm also going to talk about the game itself because there's so much to be excited for regarding this game. But I just wanted to talk about the controversy first, and it's not like this controversy is taking the gaming world by storm because this is a more under-the-radar PS4 exclusive. I guarantee you that if this was a game like The Last of Us Part 2 or Ghost of Tsushima that was implementing this, it would be the talk of the gaming town. But because Judgment is a Sega published game, because it is a more Japanese-centric game, and because it's just not as popular as the games I just mentioned, it is gonna go a little under the radar. But what they're doing with Judgment is that the game will be released on June 25th. However, if you buy the digital copy of the game, you'll actually get access to the game 4 days earlier on June 21st. Now, some of you guys might not see it as a big deal, but I do not want to see gaming go down this route where it's incentivizing you to buy digital over physical. Now, it's obvious to see why. They're probably seeing a ton more money on digital sales, and ideally they would want a world where everything is bought through digital means. But there are some people that just don't want to download, a 50, 60, 70, 80 gigabyte game these days, and they want to get the physical copy. Now, obviously you still have to go through the install process, but the install process is generally a lot faster than the download process. And also, I imagine that a lot of you guys are going to bring up the fact that this isn't all too new in gaming. While this is new in the sense it's just the standard version being released early, other games have done this in the past. A lot of Square Enix games have done this. A lot of the 2K sports titles have done this as well, where they'll have a special edition, and if you buy that edition, you get the game 4 days early. I've always been against that. I think that's even worse than the case of Judgment. But Judgment being a single player, more niche experience, I don't want to see games like that are even a little bit more niche implementing things like this. And I just don't want this to open the floodgates for a lot of other games to do it, because there are people that want to buy their games physically. There are a lot of people that want digital games as well, but it should be a parallel experience. I shouldn't be reprimanded because I want a game physically. I shouldn't have to wait 4 days, and I know for a lot of you guys are going to think I'm making too big of an issue of this, but when we don't make an issue of things like this, it just opens the floodgates for more games to do it. And I don't want to get into a world where every game is being released early digitally, and if you're one of those gamers that do want physical copies of your games, you have to wait a couple of days. That would suck. And at the end of the day, it is anti-consumer, because while it's not completely limiting the option, they're still going to offer the physical copy. They're going to offer it at a delayed release. Now, the issue with this is I don't know if every game can really go this route, because at some point the retailers are going to think, okay, we're being undercutted. Why do we have to wait longer to actually sell these games while everybody is just going to start going digitally? That's going to affect the retailer, so I don't really see how many games can go down this route. If I was a retailer selling Judgment, I would be a little upset about this, because hey, I want to sell physical copies too, but Sega as a publisher is now incentivizing you to not shop at your favorite retailer, but instead go to the PlayStation Store and buy the game digitally, where the retailer isn't going to see a cut at all. Obviously, retail services have been diminishing over the years, but gaming is one area where retailers still do relatively strong, and gaming has been also inclining on a digital sense, but there are definitely gamers that also go and buy their games physically, so retailers can always rely on that. However, in the case of Judgment, it does bring forth a worrisome trend, especially in the eyes of retailers, and we know, as far as game deals go, retailers are one of the best places to go, so you want to keep a good relationship with retailers, because for the foreseeable future, I still imagine that there's going to be a large portion of people that want their games physically, and unlike the majority of forms of entertainment, movies, music, all that kind of stuff, gaming has really persisted in a retail sense and in a physical sense, and that's cool to see. I've always liked physical gaming, but I don't want to see Judgment be one of those games that really push that story of buying your games digitally so you can get your games earlier. And if this is successful, I could see Sega doing this in the future with other games. Of course, they're going to continue bringing those Yakuza remakes stateside. Is now this going to be a thing with Yakuza as well, with the Yakuza 3 remaster? I don't know. We don't know the story on that as well, but I did want to bring you guys up to speed. I do also want to talk about Judgment as a game, because me talking about that in a negative sense, that does a lot of disservice to how great I expect Judgment to be. Now, this game was just released in Japan back in December, and it was received very well. Famitsu scored the game a 37 out of 40 with ratings of 9, 10, 9, and 9. That's how Famitsu does their scoring criteria, but that is a very positive reception. And if you don't know about the game, it is of course a spin-off to the Yakuza franchise. It looked like Yakuza 6 closed the story on Yakuza, at least for now, and Judgment is what Sega is gonna push going forward. And what's amazing about Judgment is from a technical perspective, this game actually looks like it was built ground up for the PS4. You'll notice with some of the Yakuza offerings on the PlayStation 4, they look okay, but you can tell that they're older games. In the case of Yakuza 6, that's the best looking out of all of them, but Yakuza Kiwami and Kiwami 2, those being PS2 games, remade on the PS4 nonetheless, they just don't hold up on a technical level compared to some games that were designed exclusively for the PS4. With Judgment, that is definitely not the case, and what we've seen of the game thus far has looked stellar. I mean, the entire game is pretty much up online because it was released in Japan, but keep in mind that that's going to be in Japanese. What sets apart Judgment from the Yakuza franchise is Yakuza has always only been available in a subtitled format. You would hear the authentic Japanese audio, and that is a perfectly fine and playable experience. Honestly, a lot of people probably prefer that experience, but with Judgment, I'm sure Sega wants this game to have more mainstream appeal. And how do you get more mainstream appeal? Well, you gotta offer more options, and for people that want an English dub, Judgment has it. Now, they released a localization trailer, and you'll notice in the comment section of that trailer, a lot of people are saying, okay, that this is a game you should play with the authentic Japanese voices, but for a lot of people, they just want the English dub. I know for a lot of people, they just prefer English dub anime over the Japanese audio with subtitles, and that might put a lot of people off that like those authentic experiences. But if you want to engage a more casual consumer, you need that because that is their native language. They don't want to watch and read at the same time, and I can perfectly understand that. And at the end of the day, you're gonna pick how you want to play. You can play with Japanese voices and English subtitles. You can play with the English voiceovers. There are gonna be subtitles for a lot of other languages as well. So Judgment is really going into the deep end to attract a more casual consumer. It'll be really interesting to see how this game turns out from a commercial standpoint, because Sega is definitely investing a lot more than they've done with the Yakuza franchise. Yakuza has been really consistent in the States over the last year and a half. We've had a lot of Yakuza games be brought over. Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami, Yakuza 6, and most recently Yakuza Kiwami 2. Have those games been commercial blockbusters? I don't think they have been, but there's definitely been an audience for that, and an audience to the point where Sega has been warranted to continue localizing those games, and to the point where they're trying to make Judgment an even more accessible game to a Western audience. How is that going to turn out? Is that going to pay off? I do think it is, because do keep in mind, we talked about the release date a lot on the basis that it's being released early for digital consumers, but also assess the release date objectively. June 25th for the physical copy, June 21st for the digital copy. June is usually a pretty dead month for game releases, especially that late June, early July period. That period is pretty dead, so I think Judgment is just going to make a lot of waves around the time, and we already know the game is good. If you play the Yakuza games, you know these games turn out well. From a technical standpoint, it's going to be a lot more impressive. It's got English voiceovers. I think the recipe is there for this game to be a very big success. Is it going to be a success at the level of some of the biggest PS4 exclusives? I don't think it's going to go that far, but Judgment can definitely lay the foundation for it to become one of the bigger franchises in all of gaming, whether they do a Judgment 2 or something like that. I don't really know how the game ends. I don't know if it sets the table for a sequel, but given how many Yakuza games they put out, given how much effort Sega has put towards this game, I do imagine that they want Judgment to develop into its own franchise. And if you don't know what the game's about, it's a legal thriller set in the Yakuza world, so it follows that, and it follows a private detective. You're investigating a serial murder case. You've got that similar fighting style to the Yakuza games. There's a lot of potential here. From a visual sense, from a story sense, from a gameplay sense, all of that is shaping up very nicely. And I do see this game doing really well over here in the West. It's just that digital and physical release being offset. I'm not a big fan of that. Hopefully that won't be implemented into future games, because I do like having my games physically. It's not a deal breaker for me, and for a game of this caliber, I'm still super excited for it, but I just don't want to see that be common practice, especially with all PS4 titles and PS4 exclusives. Generally haven't seen with PS4 exclusives. Of course, this isn't a first-party title, but you get the idea. I definitely want to hear what you guys think. Are you excited about Judgment? Do you think I'm making too big of a deal about the release date, about it being released on June 21st digitally and June 25th physically? I do think it's something that should be brought up. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the game. Are you excited for it? Have you played the Yakuza games in the past? Or is this going to be the one that really wins you over? Does the English dub matter to you? Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
I've given him a name. The Mole.
The cops already did their whole song and dance searching for the mole.
If anyone's gonna know about the Mole, it's Hamura.
Get this fucker back to the office! Hey, you wanna try helping out?
Sure thing.
Think this is some kind of Yakuza pissing contest, do ya? Come on. The Mole is way bigger than...
Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.